Hi everyone, what's up? I'm back from France. As you can see, I have a new beard. Let me know how you like it. Feedback at timrodenbrücker.de or the comments of this YouTube video. I am so happy that I had the opportunity to speak to Stef and Raphaël from the Processing Foundation, who are pushing processing forward right now. This is great news because the project didn't have that pace and that power in the last years compared to P5JS. Like P5JS was really, there were many people working on it. Processing was a little bit slower. Now it's catching up, and I had the amazing opportunity to learn about the new features, about everything that's coming, or at least a part of it. And to be honest, I was really surprised about the push and the power that these people put into the project. Great ideas, great new initiatives, great projects, all based on the paradigm that processing has to be stable and reliable and compatible. So dang, that was amazing. Raphael, you are the community lead still, right? And
Yeah, so I'm the processing community lead. I've been the processing community lead for almost 3 years now. That means technically, on paper, I am responsible for making sure that everybody who uses processing has the best of times, make sure that all our community spaces online are properly moderated, and that people get the help that they need, and that the documentation's up to date, at least. So that's on paper. And in practice, I've been sort of the de facto product owner, I guess you would say, in the industry. I don't come from a background of software industry myself, so I don't know all of this stuff. But yeah, technically, I've been like project managing processing for a while, and Steph for the last like a little over a year now, I guess, been the principal maintainer. It feels like longer because we've been doing so much, but yeah. Yeah, so, and my background is in graphic design originally and typography. So I come more from an applied arts background. And then I taught myself processing starting in 2012 at a workshop in Paris with Julien Gachadois, who was running that workshop. And I really fell in love with processing back then.
nice.
And that's that's really what got me started on that journey. And I've always had a passion for systems and being kind of a nerdy kid, but also loving art and design. And so just it was the perfect storm where I saw that, oh, these things can exist together. And I think all creative coders, we kind of share that. And I see people have gone different ways and to arrive to this, like through different paths. You have people who sort of went into computer science, and then they were like, oh, but this artistic side of myself is not getting fed. And then they find that creative coding is a thing, and that they kind of use the skills they have learned and apply them into an artistic context. And I went the other way, and I know a lot of other people who did that, who went through design and were like, oh, but this nerdy side of me is not really getting fed. And then you discover creative coding, and you're like, oh yeah, I can do both. I don't have to choose.
Nice. That's cool. What about you, Steph? What's your background?
Yeah, so I'm Stef, and I guess at this point, the primary maintainer of processing. And so I originally studied interaction design in Arnhem in the Netherlands. And that's where I had my first processing class by Dan Powers. And I think from the first moment, I had done some programming before, but I always, when I was working with other people in like software development and kind of creation, I was always the designer, right? So that's also how I ended up at interaction design. And I looked at people coding before, and I was like, yeah, not really my thing, right? And then I was shown processing, and I was like, because Hello World never made sense to me.
That's a great sentence. That's a great sentence. Love that.
But rectangle, yes, yeah, duh.
Beautiful.
I am a visual person in the end. I think I very much think in visual patterns, and that's also how I code. And I think within like 3 months, I had done so much processing that I was asking questions to Dan, and he was like, I don't know, I Google it because I've not touched this part of processing yet. So I think that's how my entire studies went. People just were asking me questions. I was just delving deeper and deeper into programming. My final project as for graduation was a computer completely built from scratch.
Wow.
So
Woof.
in like a simulation. So I had made. I was very interested in that kind of how compute worked and this black box, right? Because you start programming, you start kind of putting inputs into a computer, and you're like, at a certain point, you kind of get a sense what's going on and you also get a curiosity of what's going on in between. So I just made a simulation, and it's kind of that where signals propagate, and then I made different things that would then kind of align, and in the end you get computation.
Wow. Cool. That's awesome.
I still want to finish this project at some point. Um, but anyway, after that, I mostly went into software development rather than design. So I've actually spent the last 10 years mostly learning about software development, so Unity and all that kind of stuff. In my journey, I had also done some Android development at this stage. So I
Okay.
was familiar with Java and Kotlin. And yeah, I think mostly it came indeed from a point of curiosity. Like, okay, how does this work? How are we gonna? Because we didn't really know where we wanted to go with it. And I just started hacking at it. I think the first thing I did is I created a new project rather, and I started just moving stuff over one by one to kind of start figuring out what each part did and what it was responsible for.
Okay. Wow.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah,
Cool.
and that's kind of how it's been going.
So in the end, it's a new processing under the hood, right? Like you build it from scratch again, copy pasting parts, but
No, so this is usually how I work. I usually make proof of concepts, right? Raf is very familiar with this thing. It's like Stef shows up and here's the thing that works, but actually it doesn't work, but it does work. And that's kind of step one. That's a proof of concept. And with proof of concepts, it's very often much easier to start from scratch, right? Get everything out of the way for a second, focus on the thing that you want to do, and then you bring it back into the whole, basically. Yeah, so that was one of the first very important steps. And in a sense, yes, there's a whole new system behind processing, which is the Gradle build system, which is basically a complete rewrite of the thing that creates the processing editor. So it used to be based on and now it's based on Gradle. And it takes basically all the code, bundles it up to one nice package.
a package, and then you can also, well, this is maybe a little bit nerd talk now, but that's the thing that you need to build the software and distribute it for different platforms and generate these packages that people can. Okay, wow, that's cool. Yeah, nice.
One thing for people to maybe like get a sense of what that means in practice and why they should care is that releasing a new version of processing, this was quite a challenge. I mean, especially without a handover or an understanding of how it was done before. But the way that we understand that it was working with ants, there were a lot of manual steps. By some count, like 20-ish manual steps that you had to do. And each step that you do manually, there's a chance for mistakes, errors, things that go wrong. So usually you want to automate as much of that as possible, and you want to automate it with like using standards so that you don't have to maintain the tooling yourself to do that stuff. So with switching to modern tools that other people have made, that we don't have to worry about them being like working reliably and working for all systems. And we automate it as much as possible so that we're as close as possible to just you press a button and a new version of processing comes out. It's not quite that. Like there's still a few manual steps, especially because we want to make sure that, you know, there's a human in the loop, and in the end, like we check that everything is going well before we push it to the website. But we have automated as much as possible, and that means that each new release is less likely to have mistakes because you click the wrong button at some point or you type the wrong thing, which, you know, it can happen to everyone. And so we're now like fairly confident whenever we make a new release that it's going to work, and that also allows the fact that we have that confidence. That means that we can fix bugs faster, we can make releases faster, and we have established a regular release schedule now where new versions of processing come out about monthly. Like the last couple months, we took a little bit of a break because we had some other things to address quickly. But yeah, since November, we've done like how many releases is it? Like 8, 9? I forgot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to try to stick to a monthly release schedule from now for small bug fixes, and for like bigger releases, that's going to be longer. We haven't set a set release schedule for that, but yeah, and that's also exciting for people who don't contribute because they see their changes in the actual software quicker, and yeah, that's one of the benefits of using something like Gradle. But there's other cool, exciting stuff that we could exciting things about it that we can talk about later.
Sure, yeah, I'm super excited to hear that because, yeah, I mean, despite of fixing bugs and making everything stable and resilient, you have goals for the project, which sounds very promising. I was going through your document and also watched your presentation, so maybe you can elaborate a little bit on that. What is the future of processing?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I want to say for starters is that our first goal is to make sure that processing continues to work for the people who use it exactly as it is, and make sure that bugs can get fixed and that, you know, people have as little disruption into their workflows as possible, and ensure the continuity and the legacy of processing into whatever the next steps are. But to build upon that legacy and to make it possible to address challenges of compatibility with modern software, also improve accessibility or other things that we care about, we do need to switch some of the infrastructure around. We actually have done a lot of that, and there's been very little that people have noticed as issues, and when they did, we addressed them. There are still a couple things that we need to fix. For the bigger changes, we will do extensive testing before we go into that, shipping into the stable release. But yeah, so yeah, that just wanted to state that at the top. And then for ongoing goals, the main thing that we care about is to make the project sustainable for ideally the next 25 years. I mean, it's a 25-year-old project. How can you make it continue for another 25? It's kind of absurd to say out loud, but that is kind of the horizon that we've set, and thinking about, how do you build resilience in that way? And that I think that question is generative because it forces you to think. It's a provocation. It forces you to think about, okay, how the financial sustainability, software infrastructure, community, how does documentation, how do we make sure that all of that continues to be there? One thing that is admirable about processing is that you can take almost any sketch that's been written in the last 25 years, put it in processing 4.4.4, and likely it will work. Maybe there's some minor changes. The API changed, but very, very little. And this kind of backwards compatibility is unheard of in a lot of other kind of libraries. Because you make changes and they break prior code, and that's kind of the way of a lot of software projects. Not so for processing, at least not so far. And I think that's something we want to continue to carry on. So
amazing.
So yeah, that's that is an inspiration for the future. Part of that sustainability is the community, and we historically processing and also P5JS have been this like P5JS in particular has an approach to community that I think is incredibly inspiring, and to consider that all contributions are equally valuable, and to avoid hierarchizing types of contributions like code contribution, documentation, design, event organizing, anything, content creation. Mm-hmm. So recognizing these contributions all on the software, on the repository, is something that we've adopted as well for processing. So now we have this all contributors. So anyone who contributes in any way to processing can come to the GitHub repository and add themselves to the list of contributors. That's one thing. And in general, we're trying to make processing more appealing for people to come and contribute at whatever level of or perceived level of competence or experience that they might have. And so there's a number of ways that we've been doing that, and part of that is making it easier to set it up locally for yourself to just work on the code base. If you want to contribute to code, make the documentation more welcoming and detailed about how to come in and help. There's still a lot to be done there, but that's precisely why we need more people to come and help. Mm-hmm. It's a challenge because there's been these big infrastructure change or refactors that we've been working on. We've had this tension always of like, okay, how many resources do we have, and how much should we be spending on ourselves fixing the problems and stabilizing the code base versus like onboarding new people to come and help? Because it's great to have people come and help, and I think we could make a big call to the whole community, and we eventually will, like, hey, come in and help us fix things. But we wanted to avoid a too many cooks scenario. Sure. Where the project is just not in a state where it can accept this help, and then we spend all our time kind of managing this influx of many people from everywhere who want to help, very well meaning, and then we're just like, but that this is going to change in 2 months, so you're trying to fix this, but you should actually then so this was a challenge, and the way that we decided to approach it was let's invite people gradually expand the number of people, the size of the group of people who get involved in the project. And so first of all, it was Stef and I just talking. First of all, it was mostly me just thinking, okay, where do we go next? Then asking Stef for his help, and that he joined and started working on the code, which is something I personally couldn't have done at that level or at all. And then we started inviting internally, like, more conversation within the foundation and within like a larger group of also invited contributors and users and teachers and contributors to P5JS to try and have a diversity of perspectives to advise about the next steps. So they've created this internal advisory group. And now we're starting to see more contributors join, also like from outside, just coming in and picking up issues, and we're welcoming everyone and trying to support them to contribute. We're still looking for like more issues at different levels, especially good first issues are a bit hard to come by right now, but as we go, I think there will be more of those for beginners or people who are like first-time contributors. Mm-hmm. But the last the upcoming release of processing 4.4.5, so it's out in beta right now on the website. This one has as many contributors to that release as all the contributors to all the releases since we started making them again last year combined. Wow, so this is super nice. Just like I was so happy to see that. Mm-hmm. Didn't really realize it in the moment because they come, they trickle in, mm-hmm. And then we compiled the list for the release, and I was like, oh wow, that is like significantly more people than any of the prior releases. So I think this is working, and this is going to continue. We also have like people who started coming in and having like real like deep conversations about the things like rendering and like things that can be quite complex and technical that we weren't necessarily hoping that we would see people with that level of deep knowledge of very hard technical questions joining and willing to help.
Yeah.
And starting to build prototypes for these things as well. So yeah, I'm super excited. There's a lot in the works, and we'll show a little bit of that.
Nice.
But yeah, so that's one of the goals is growing the contributor community. Another thing is to make processing itself more attractive to a broad range of users. As I said, processing is a 25-year-old project, and it is extremely versatile, but it has some limitations that are not necessarily limitations of the library itself, but sometimes limitations of the editor. And so we want to make it easier to use processing in a variety of configurations and environments.
Nice.
Not only in the PDE, which is the blue editor with the two big buttons that everybody loves, but though the editor, the sketchbook, is great for smaller projects, and I mean you can go quite far with it, but some developers might have expectations that the PDE isn't suitable for, and I don't think it should be. I think the value, as you said, like before we started talking, you were saying like people love processing as it is, and I think part of that, I agree, and part of that is how simple it is and how minimal it is, and I think it should stay this minimal thing, but a lot of people come and they say that, oh, processing should have this and processing should have that, and why doesn't processing have this and this and that, and code folding and this and that and the other. And there are technical reasons for it, which are related to legacy of like what the text editor in processing is, and that we can't technically do it at the moment with the way that it's built. This will change, but also maybe processing isn't supposed to have all these features, and there are tons of cool code editors out there and development environments. Like people might know VS Code, IntelliJ is popular in the Java world. All of these have tremendous amount of features that are definitely not that will never come to processing because it's way too overwhelming for beginners. It's way too complex, and it would need like so many buttons that you open it. Recently,
one thing I have been releasing on Friday a video where I tried to get processing up and running with Vim from the terminal. And, I'm really thinking about creating a course how to use processing completely from Linux with Vim. So that's something I have on my list, even though it's super nerdy, and I'm not really sure if anyone watches these videos, but I love that
stuff.
So I find this so cool, and I think YouTube has to censor this S word now. I don't know if that's possible.
That should be easier soon, actually, because we're working on the command line interface for processing.
Wonderful.
I forgot what I was about to say.
I'm so sorry, man. That's my fault.
Yeah, no worries. Like the other editors, so VS Code, IntelliJ, and I think like once people are able to use processing in their projects, that will also bring, I think potentially that has the potential to bring different kinds of profiles to processing who maybe wouldn't have been attracted to it if they just opened the PDE and looked at it and was like, oh, where is this and that feature that I'm used to? Because there's not really like the processing library is incredible. It's like you said, it's been built over all this time by very, very smart people, and it's great. It's just so great. And you may not fully kind of conceive or understand how flexible and how powerful it is if you only experience it through the PDE.
Exactly.
And developers who are used to Java or used to other languages and used to other ideas may overlook processing when they probably shouldn't, or at least I'm sure there's tons of people out there who would really enjoy using processing in their workflows who don't, because it's not entirely clear how they can do that easily in the tools that they already use. And we want to make that easier so that these people get the features that they need and can use processing in their workflows without having all that pressure for the PD to be the everything editor, which is never it was never meant to be. And this way we can keep it this minimal sketchbook that is suitable for the people who need it to be that, and at the same time welcome to the community either new developers who have experience as developers and want to use processing or are curious about creative coding, and also potentially people who have learned through the PDE but are starting to feel like, oh, this is a bit limiting because I want to make bigger projects, or I want to do refactoring, I want to do this and that. And then you could easily take your project from the PDE and open it in another editor, IntelliJ, VS Code, and then continue using these tools that these powerful IDEs provide, and potentially even back and forth. So that's, I think that's a big part of the vision and the goals.
Cool.
So yeah, contributor community and flexibility, or more range of use cases for processing, enabling those with good documentation and tooling.
I've been reading I just have this document open now. It's a doctoral thesis by my friend Stigmar Hansen. And in it is a quote by Mitchell Resnick or Mr. or Mrs. Schneider. I'm not really sure, but they say that processing is actually an ideal programming language to get started with creative work, because it has three properties which make them very attractive for graphic designers. And this is the doctoral thesis based on education in graphic design, creative coding education in graphic design. Processing has a low threshold. That means anybody can come in very quickly, high ceiling and wide walls. And that means like there's a lot of stuff possible with processing, right? I mean, many professionals work with processing, but of course the IDE is very limited in a way. And I think that's a milestone. That's a massive milestone historically of the project, because as soon as you open that, which you're doing, which is amazing, the whole perception of the project could potentially change. That's great. And I have to say that the PDE editor is something I love because it's so simple, also because it's so edgy, and you have this friction while writing the code, because that really engraves the knowledge that you need to code into your brain, right? The friction is important. It doesn't make any sense to give people directly an OpenAI, like an LLM, and all these code completion features. That doesn't make any sense. They have to learn it. They have to feel the pain.
Well, I don't know about that, but I would say that you want to get challenged a little bit, and that's a good place to be. And yeah, if you want to use Copilot and whatever, you can do that in another editor. And I mean, if somebody wants to build an extension for processing that implements that, then more power to them. But yeah, that's probably not something that at least that's not something that we have on the roadmap in the short term. I mean, we could talk about that. It's a bigger topic and not something that we've talked about a lot. But I think if we were to implement any kind of LLM based features, it would probably look very different from any of the code assistants that you find out there, because none of them feel very suitable for learning code.
Oh my God, please don't do that, please.
It's not happening, don't worry.
Oh my God, I'm going to, that's going to destroy my worldview.
No, that's really not on the roadmap. And I mean, not that we don't use these tools. I think it's interesting to know what they are and to know how they work and to see where the limitations are and what the potential is. But I think a lot of a lot of these features are just implemented very quickly to be the first one there, and to say that you have AI in your software. And the great thing about being supported by our community and not having like investors, VC funding behind us, forcing us to implement things, is that we don't have to do that. We don't have to show like, we don't have to surf on whatever hype. And yeah, I think that's really important. We want to be mindful about the things that we do, and to build upon your comment on the low floor, high ceiling, wide walls, the Seymour Papert thing. I think some criticism of processing that I've read in the past has been like, oh, they claim this, but they don't test it. I think that's also something that in the future we want to experiment with a little bit more, like having more data to back this up, more understanding of education. And in the foundation, like there's now people who have a lot of experience with education, with curriculum design, and those are things that we also want to start looking into more. Cool. And yeah, oh, there was something else I wanted to say about this. So the low floor, wide walls, high ceiling.
Well, low
great.
threshold, high ceiling, and wide walls. Is it Papert?
Yeah,
I don't know. I think.
It comes from as far as I know.
Okay, I gotta check that out here. Okay.
So yeah, low floor, high ceiling, wide walls. It's great. It has some blind spots, I think, as an ideal, or as a vision. I think one of the things that is missing from there is a big open door, because like it's great to have this thing set up that allows you to do this and this and that, but who gets to be in that space to begin with is very important. I think that's something that the foundation, in particular P5JS, has been doing a lot actively to invite more variety and diversity of people into the project and into contributing, setting the threshold to contribute to the project very, very low, which is like admirable. I'm in awe of everything that Lauren and then Q and I mean all the leads of P5JS and the community has been doing. If I start naming names, I'm gonna forget someone, and that's a bad idea. But yeah, and now Kit is the P5JS lead. So tremendous work there, and really, really inspiring, and we really want to get there with processing. There are some challenges. They're not the same project, but I definitely want to make it easier to come in, and that's for contributing, and of course also for using the software.
Okay.
So I mean, we already, like, one of the first thing I did when joining the foundation was redesign the download page so that it wasn't like 6 or 7 different links that say like Intel 64-bit whatever, and you're like, oh, what does that mean? So now it's like one big blue button, and I'm very proud of it.
That's cool.
It had some challenges. We've had to work around that, but as a principle, like, okay, don't make the friction as low as possible to get started. And yeah, that the other thing is, you have to. It's not a checkbox. You can't just say like, oh, we have low floor, high ceiling, wide walls, and we're done. Because the software landscape that your software lives in changes over time. And if you don't keep up with this, your ceiling kind of lowers and your floor kind of raises, because very concrete example, a lot of teachers have told us that their students struggle with the file system. They don't understand, like they're not exposed to a file system when they use a smartphone, when they use a tablet. There's no file system. So, I know that Apple is kind of walking that back now. They feel like, oh, we've done a terrible thing and we need to bring back a file system on the iPad, but it's too late. So at least for a whole generation, it's too late. So the teachers who are teaching coding, like, often have to spend the whole first session teaching the students what a file is, what a folder is, how to use the file explorer. that's a challenge. And we've had discussions with people about like, oh, should we expose people to the file system from the start, or how does that work? Like, do we want to hide it a bit and make it easier? So it's because like I remember somebody was just telling us like, yeah, but if you do that, then it's the task of the next teacher to do it. So if you hide the file system in the introduction course, then you're just kicking the can down the road. But yeah, so we're thinking about that. And so yeah, because the environment changes, because the students change, you have to keep up and you have to make those changes adapt so that your software keeps this low floor, keeps this high ceiling, keeps these wide walls, because software ages, and like some of the popular libraries for processing, eventually the people who were maintaining them, they lose interest or they move on, and then these libraries end up being deprecated, or they fall behind, or there's like some new exciting hardware that you'd like to support, but nobody's making a library for it. So we also want to make it easier to make libraries, which we've done last year with one of our grantees. Claudine has been doing some great work in improving the workflow for creating and contributing libraries. Yeah, there's tons of things that you need to actively do if you want to keep your software accessible in the ways that it needs to be.
I'm not sure if I agree with the idea that the thing with the iPad. I mean, people, as soon there was this Apple ad where this girl was playing in the garden, and the mother comes and says something like, "Hey, switch off the computer," and she says, "What is a computer?" I think that's a terrible tendency, because as soon as we drop knowledge about what a file and a folder is, we actually kind of eradicate a very important layer that gives us the power and the literacy of how a computer actually works, right? And I think one of the main powers of processing in general is to teach people how these things work, right? From my point of view, it doesn't make any sense to eradicate this idea of a file system, to hide it from the people, because we are confronting them with way more complicated stuff like functions, loop, conditional statements, and variables, So I don't know. I find this development in general is actually obscuring and disguising what empowers people to control what computers are and how they develop. And I think processing is a force to prevent that. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, I mean I think that's, and as I said, it's a discussion that we're having. It's not that we have decided which way we want to go, and I think that's pretty a good point as well. It's like maybe there's a way that we can introduce the file system, but in a gradual way that doesn't create as much friction. Something.
I think one of the roles of processing is also to kind of gently lower people into that complexity, right? By giving really great defaults that work for most people, but then still, if you want to do something else, you still have the ability to modify the system as a whole to kind of customize it to what you want. And slowly through kind of those little bits of friction, you kind of get to learn how the system works completely.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, well, this is a topic that is not just related to processing, but it's a development that is actually now tangible and very dangerous. I think that we lose control over how computers work, and they are just disguised and black boxes, and we don't exactly how to work with them anymore. And people start to add another layer of complexity now with AI, which is an exponentiality. Things are just piling up in a bad way, and I don't know. I think that's something that I see processing as a powerful force and a counter movement that still makes it interesting to look into the black box. That's why I teach it, and that's why I find it very valuable in a philosophical sense, not just in a sense of making art and design. And yeah, that's what I find very important.
Yeah, I really like what Steph said about like lowering people gently into the complexity. I think that's a great metaphor. Because yeah, there's I think some amount of friction and what I think some people call seamfulness, as opposed to seamlessness, which is like sort of the Apple approach, is the like, yeah, you hide all the hard edges and you baby proof all your software and your hardware. So yeah, I think like some amount of seamfulness is desirable, especially in the context of teaching coding. Um, I think there's a point where you have to find like get people where they're at. I think it was Kit who shared this one. I forgot who came up with it, but the quote was like, yeah, you want to find people where they're at, but not leave them there. And and so yeah, I think, you know, if people are struggling with the file system or with any complex concept because they haven't been raised with like having to fix the computer every 2 days, like we have, for better or worse, then it's kind of, we have a privilege that we worked with broken computers when we were growing up, and it's a form of privilege. I think we can also have this empathy to reach people and then bring them into this complexity, like Steph was mentioning. I think some anecdotal evidence that I've heard from teachers was that, you know, for example, file sharing is a problem, and it's only made harder by the fact that now if you want to share, like send a folder or send a zip file through say Gmail, because a lot of schools are going to be using Google software, then you might not be able to do that because it's going to say like, oh, this is a suspicious piece of code, and you can't send it. So I've heard teachers tell me like, yeah, students send their sketch as like copy pasted in the body of the email. And that's not a great experience for anyone. And I think we can fix that. We can make that easier.
That makes sense. Yeah, sure. Of course.
So, you know, there's there's some amount of convenience that is desirable. And I don't think we're going to go overboard with that. But yeah, I think it's a good reminder that you want to be mindful of how much convenience are you providing and how much you're putting people into, like without putting people into autopilot, where they stop thinking about the underlying infrastructure and the materiality of the software or the hardware for that matter.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, I think people learn programming because it's hard, right? It's something that is fun to learn because it's challenging, and that's the thing that makes it special. And I mean, only challenging things make you smarter. You have to play piano for many hours to be able to play the piano. So for me, it's still a craft, and it takes a long time to get good, and that's great. That's why I love it, you know.
I would push back just a tiny bit on that, not because I disagree that challenging people is good, or that I personally don't enjoy a challenge. That's absolutely a big part of the motivation why I enjoy programming. But I think where you're talking about bringing different profiles and different categories of people into programming, like that's the mission of the foundation, is to make technology more accessible, more diverse.
That's great. I totally agree with that.
There is a certain type of people who enjoys a challenge and gets motivated by it, and people who have been told all their life that they don't belong in that space, or that this is not for them, or that have, like, for some reason, internal or external, been led to believe that they are not a programming person, they're not a computer science person, they're not a computer person.
Yeah.
If they experience too much of that friction, they're gonna give up. They're gonna say it's not for me. It's just gonna validate their preconception of what this is. And so I think that's something we need to think about very carefully where is the friction, what is productive friction, and what is a friction that excludes. And
Yeah.
that's it's not an easy question. I don't think there's an easy answer.
I think there's not just one answer. There are many answers, like, because everybody is different, you know? That's probably the answer for it. And I totally appreciate that. I find the endeavors are amazing. Like, the motives and the goals are amazing. But yeah. Period. Yeah. Because we were speaking about the foundation and P5, I would really be interested, if you are done with presenting, like talking about the new features, we can also tap into that later. But I would love to know what is the relationship of processing and P5.js? Like, how do they relate to each other within the ecosystem of the processing foundation?
Yeah. So,
beyond technical,
Yeah.
platforms.
Yeah, so I'll answer that just to mention about features. I think what we want is also to show a few demos later, so we should keep some time for that.
Sure, awesome.
And yeah, and we have a hard stop at 5 p.m. So
okay, we could dive into that directly if you want, and maybe.
But I'll answer your question. I think it's a good question. So yeah, the relationship. So both processing and P5.js are supported by the Processing Foundation, and historically, the two projects have kind of lived their own life. And I mean, P5.js came around, was it 2013, as a fellowship project from that Lauren Lee McCarthy did at the foundation. And it was an answer to the question, like, what would processing look like if it was built for the web now? Like, if it was built now, and the answer was, well, it probably would be web native. But it wasn't meant to be a port, or it wasn't meant to stay in lockstep with whatever processing was doing, and the other way around. Because the web is different, and because they need to be able to make technical decisions that make sense for a browser. So we are closely talking, and because the P5J, well, you talked to Kit on your podcast, I know, and they are in Berlin, so we do get to meet relatively often, and we have these roadmap discussions, like cross-project roadmap discussions regularly.
That's great.
And yeah, I think we're at a good point right now. Like, P5.js 2.0 came out, or like is in sort of a broad open beta for a year now, or like for the next year. And so it's I think we have a great opportunity right now, as we think also about like what's the future of processing, and a bit in the same way that P5.js was thinking about what's the future of P5.js when planning the transition to 2.0. I think we have a good opportunity now to think about where overlaps can happen between the projects. And one way that this is happening right now is this year's processing development grant. We have 3 grantees who are working on a variety of projects, and the topic of this year's grant is building bridges. So it's really about finding these overlaps. Nice. And there's two projects in particular that are very much, very explicitly doing that. One is to make the visual testing framework that P5.js has started implementing a cross-project visual testing framework. This is a little nerdy, so let me try and simplify it. When you make changes in processing or P5.js, when you change things in the underlying code that runs the sketches, you might change the way a sketch looks. Maybe you made a cool flower in P5.js or in processing, and then you bump the version to the latest and it doesn't look the same. And you're like, oh no, what changed? We want to avoid that as much as possible, so that when you change version or when we fix a bug, we're not inadvertently breaking everybody's sketches. We don't have a good way to do this automatically right now in processing. P5.js has that, some version of that anyway. And we would like to have this shared between the projects so that we can all use the same one and we don't have to have like to rebuild things twice every time. There are some things that need to be built twice. That finding where this where this frontier lies is more an art than a science, but we're figuring it out. And yeah, so that's one project that is going to be both processing and P5. And the other one is the one that Stef is mentoring, and maybe you want to talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, sure. This is the P5GS mode, and that's based on a proof of concept that I did late last year, where I was curious because one of the advantages that processing still has over P5GS is that it has access to everything on the desktop. So files, sockets, all hardware devices, right? We see these getting transferred slowly and more gradually to the browser, but it's always on a case-by-case basis because the browser is privacy first. It's really important for privacy for a browser to do everything in a private way.
Yeah.
Whereas on the desktop, because we are running code with a much higher level of execution, we have many more permissions to do stuff. So I was like, okay, maybe we can do that with P5GS as well by running it within Electron. So I made a quick proof of concept for a P5GS mode. And yeah, that is one of the now Building Bridges projects where we're actually like building a full P5GS mode for within the PDE.
Wow, nice.
And this with that, the ability to basically do everything that you would be able to do with Node, also within P5.js.
Cool, that's super good. Awesome.
Yeah, so for people who want to make like say installation work, standalone, executable with P5.js, you can do that, or you will be able to do that with that mode. And we also want to make it easier to make modes, so language support for other things as well. Other projects might be interested in having their language in processing so that people can use it because it is this very minimal environment. And for beginners, there are a lot of projects that are also meant for beginners, but they are getting their beginners, their users to use these more complex IDEs that sometimes add a lot of friction as well. So yeah, that's part of it. And yeah, longer term, we're looking at other ways that processing and P5.js could overlap, or that we could reduce the maintenance burden of both projects by adopting some shared parts of the code base. Maybe in the rendering area, there's some interesting things happening right now. P5.js is experimenting with WebGPU, which also works on desktop. So we're looking at like, could that be an opportunity for shared work? In general, the Processing Foundation is very interested in having overlapping work between projects, and all the leads are also like, I mean, Kit is very excited about it every time we talk about it. I am as well, Stef as well. We're really looking for these opportunities where they make sense. I mean, it's not a question of like, it has to be done where it actually helps both projects, not just because, but there are definitely opportunities there. We're excited about them.
Awesome, great, super nice. Okay, if you want, we can move over to your demos and see what you brought.
Yeah. One of the long-term goals for processing is something we call back to the web. If like the oldies, the OGs of the OG processing users will remember that processing used to work on the web through something called Java applets, but that went the way of the dodo, in the same way that Flash was also kicked out of the browser for security reasons, probably some good reasons, I imagine, but frustrating nonetheless, because like one of the reasons that processing is Java and not another language was that Casey and Ben were looking at the possibility of sharing your work on the web. That was a big part of the vision for processing, and that hasn't really been possible in that way for quite a while. And so we're looking at ways that processing can get back into the browser in different ways. Like right now, it's not about running the sketches on the web, though there are some opportunities for that as well in the future. We're keeping an eye on how things like WebGPU and WebAssembly evolve, and as it overlaps with Java. But for now, we're looking at some other smaller ways that processing and the web can interoperate a little bit more. And the first version of that we've been implementing is this schema that allows you to share processing sketches, or rather open processing sketches from the web into and this is actually P5.js, by the way, the sketch that runs in the browser, so it's just a port. But if you want to run the actual sketch in processing, we now have a button in all the examples on the website, and when you click on them, it just simply opens the sketch in processing, and then here's your processing code, and you can go and start editing it and save it and
I need that.
it.
I need that for my website. That's so cool.
You can use it. This works for single tab sketches, but it also works for more complex sketches.
Wow. Like
this one that has multiple tabs. If you wanted to run this sketch in processing, you'd have to copy paste each tab. It's kind of a hassle, but you don't have to. You can just open it like this, and it runs. And this is just a link. So this is just a
link to a specific piece of code that.
Yeah. So if you look at the link itself, it's a link that starts with PDE // sketch. And in this case, the sketch is encoded in this obscure series of numbers and letters. It's like it's like a riddle, but your computer understands it, and processing understands it, and can convert that back into code. I mean, so far nobody has really implemented that in their own website, but you can absolutely do that, and you can do it dynamically, which is the cool thing about it, is that if you change the code, you could still, like, I mean, this is not an editor, you can't really change it, but in theory you could make an editor that you change the code and then click open in processing, and it would open the updated code because it is generated on the client side.
How do you generate such a link? How does it work?
Yeah, so there's some documentation about this if you're interested. This is still pretty fresh, so there's the tooling around this we're still working on, but the sketch, the link. There's several types of links. Well, there are two types of links mainly. There's the base 64 encoded one. That's that weird list of numbers and letters. And then you have these relative links ones where you're linking to the sketch file directly. So if it's hosted, you can do that. If it's not hosted, you can use the base 64. There's some limitation of how long a link can be. So that's for very large sketches or sketches with a lot of assets, that's not going to work. But if you're hosting your sketch somewhere, you can link to, you can also link to any files that are in the data code or code folder, like images or sounds or whatever you're using in your sketch can also be downloaded. Automatically by processing. If you're using a different mode, you can also specify this. And in the future, we're also thinking about the ability to change some settings or other aspects of the environment through the link as well, if that's necessary. The mode is the most obvious one.
So cool. I love that.
Yeah. So you can automate that. I've actually done some, like I was working on that last weekend. I made a proof of concept for myself where I'm converting all the examples into links automatically and making a grid. So yeah, this is gonna open a lot of possibilities. I'm very excited about that. So yeah, you can look into that, and if you have questions, you can come to us and ask. But yeah, it's there, it's in processing, it's usable.
Wonderful. One idea maybe, what if you have that kind of converter directly built as a tool into processing? Like take that sketch that's open and export it as base64 and copy it to the clipboard. That would be super nice and super handy, I guess.
Yeah, that's maybe we're working on something like this.
Fantastic. Sounds great.
One good thing to say about base64 as well is that it's basically just a cipher. Right, so it's just it is plain text, and it is relatively easy also with an online converter by hand to just convert between the weird squiggly thing and the actual contents of the sketch. So we try to keep it simple enough.
Super nice. Wow, this is so nice. I'm freaking out here. It's amazing.
But there's more. There's more.
Okay.
Stef, if you wanna show the. So this is going to be a preview. So what I just showed is already in processing. So you can use that. That's on the website, open in processing. You can use the schema in your own website if you want to. What Stef's going to be showing, I believe, is a preview version of processing that we haven't released yet, not even in beta.
Exactly. So, right. Can you see my screen?
Yes. I think so, yeah.
All right, I'll open my preview version of processing. Cool.
Looks like, okay, there it is. You also got rid of the top bar, right? Like it's...
Yeah, so we integrated it a little bit. It used to be much more separated, and now along with most modern, especially macOS and also Windows software, we try to remove the title bar.
Cool.
And some other things. The version is now on the bottom right. So that's also easier for us if they send us screenshots. Then we get to have a little bit of sense of which version people are using. So,
a feature that we haven't talked about, sorry, I just remembered because I see your text is a little small. Maybe you can show that we have this.
Yeah, this was a nice one to with me and Raph, because we got the question of like, hey, when I'm presenting stuff to my students, the code is very hard to read. Could we update it? And Raph went, nah, we still are looking into like live updating settings. And then I looked at the code and I was like, wait, no, it is basically almost there except for one thing. So I added the one thing, and now we can use the keyboard shortcuts or increase and decrease font size to zoom in and out without having to go into preferences.
I love that. That's beautiful. Yeah, that's a big step. That's amazing. Yeah, that's super nice.
Yes. All right. I didn't think maybe I can put. Let's see. Does it open on the right? It still doesn't open on the right screen. Anyway. So as you can see, I've added a little indicator. This is using the legacy build system.
Yeah.
And basically, in the last year, we have migrated processing to Gradle. But something that I was also very interested in is migrating the internal build system to Gradle as well.
Like the processing Java application itself. Is that what you mean?
So if you run a sketch, so this was what it used to be. Processing itself was built with Ant, and then if you clicked run on a processing sketch, that would be built with the Eclipse compiler. So these were two different systems. And what I'm working towards now is to make one unified system.
Nice.
One of the nerdy things about that is that soon we will be able to build processing within processing. So, but that's more nerdy for me rather than useful for people that want to use processing. But I'm adding this setting, which is use the modern build system. This will change the processing editor to use Gradle instead of Ant. So we're making this a super smooth, like hopefully no friction change. And it won't be default for quite some time. But we hope to add some features that will make it interesting for people to try out these new modes. So that if we at any point missed something from the old system, we can still add it before people are going to lose the old functionality. So it's a little bit slower on the first try still, and we're also not finished yet.
Yeah, I had that. I was trying it with the beta. Yeah.
But you can see it's running now. And voila, it's exactly the same.
Nice.
Which is, it's a bit, what do you call it?
Anticlimactic. But
Anticlimactic.
Yeah, that's something that I think you learn at some point when in your coding journey is like if you change a lot of things and everything runs the same, you're really happy.
Yeah.
Or really confused. Like why?
Exactly. But I've also talking about the new features. I am starting to kind of start making some proof of concepts of what this new build system potentially could help. So I've added a new settings tab basically to the editor. And these are settings that are relative to the sketch itself. So they're not settings for processing, but there's settings for the sketch itself. And so one of the things that I've made as a proof of concept now is the hot reload. So let's see if it works first try. No, because I need to fix one thing. Okay. I'm continuously working at it, so I think often I'm like, oh yeah, I've fixed something, and then it's broken again.
Got it. Yeah.
Okay. So.
Did I see that you're running a beta version of macOS?
Yes. So nothing has changed except for if we now change the background.
You might want to keep the window, the sketch window on the screen next to the code, so the demo makes sense.
So, voila. So now if we change, and I don't make a typo, change the background, we can see that the sketch updates live.
That's nice for tweaking, right? Like if you have a system, and you want to know, like, I mean, we already have tweak mode, but this is really handy. Nice. That's awesome.
And and this goes further than tweak mode even, because in tweak mode, you wouldn't even be able to add a new eye.
Oh, wow.
Let's see if it works. We still need to work a little bit on the feedback.
You have to display it.
You're right.
Update and display it. But yeah, you can edit. You can't. It's not just the values that you can tweak. Like in tweak mode, you can just change anything in the draw, any code in the draw, and it will update live.
Cool. I love that. Okay. That's sweet.
Yeah.
Maybe the location needed to be somewhere else.
And so of course, the Gradle stuff is not something that's super visible, but I hope to make it visible by with features like these.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
yeah,
awesome. I see that there is a lot of accessibility coming into the project, right? It makes the whole thing a little bit more accessible. These small things change so much sometimes. Like I remember how weird it felt for my students when I was projecting my screen, and they said like, "Hey, we cannot read anything," and we had to go to the preferences menu, and like it looked overwhelming for them. you know, they
yeah,
had so yeah, that's great. That's really nice.
yeah,
Yeah, I think the preferences is also something that we have our eyes on for some improvement, because it is a little bit overwhelming. It's this wall of text and checkboxes and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's potential for making it feel a little bit more welcoming.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And then I have a final demo. This is in an unspecified version. Um, and that is, let's see, what happens. Yay. This is our new VS Code extension.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Nice. Okay.
So we're building a VS Code extension, and one thing that we're really trying to do is we're trying to um, communicate back to processing itself. So a lot of the functionality that we're building for this VS Code extension can also again be used by other people. So all of it is going. So if you want to make like a IntelliJ extension, or you want to make an extension for uh, Zen or something, or for in your case Vim,
Vim, please, please create Vim extension.
um, we're giving you the tools and giving you pre-made tools to use in your extension. So you don't have to rewrite all the new things
mm-hmm.
for yourself. So this, for example, the examples.
Mm-hmm.
This is just a function that you can call on the processing CLI, and it will just give you this data back. So you
Oh.
don't have to go look in the right folders for yourself. You can just
It just generates
ah,
all these, or just pulls these things from the web.
yeah.
Okay, cool, nice. Hmm.
Uh,
So they are
yeah.
always up to date
Not
then.
from the web. It pulls them from from processing, like
Yeah.
you're from the processing command line. So when
Hmm.
you install processing, it installs the command line, and then you'll be able to just say processing. I mean, I don't know what the exact code is, but it will be something like, yeah, processing list of examples,
Ah,
and it will return the list of examples. So you can just do that.
great. That's cool.
And same for the sketchbook, and we'll try to add more features to the CLI as we go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in this case of the sketchbook, it's processing space sketches list, and it will
Mm-hmm.
just give you a list of sketches that
Very
and
cool.
examples list. Anyway, after you open a sketch, so I just opened one from the examples, and you open a PDE, it will give you the familiar run and stop buttons, and that will use actually the right now still the old CLI, but we'll probably move it to the new CLI and make it a little bit nicer in the end. And then you can run processing sketches directly from VS Code.
I love this. This is amazing. This is fantastic. This is great.
And also something that of notes that I think is important. In this entire process, you didn't need to point your extension to where processing is installed. We are now making that entire process just invisible, basically. So the extension will find the installation place of processing automatically.
But you can
So
probably
that's
also take like various versions and put them into the settings and say this is the
yeah.
version I want to work with, right? Like
So
like the
we even keep
path.
track of which versions are installed.
Hmm.
So you can even select in the settings a different version if you want to.
So can I use the versions that I installed on my system? Like because I have like this folder where I have several processing versions. Can I put a
Yeah.
absolute path into it? Okay.
Absolute path, no. It will be from once this version is committed, basically. From then on, every version works, not previous versions, because we're adding new functionality to the PDE, and the extension is going to rely on that functionality also to auto discover.
Okay.
Because previous versions of processing never stored any information on your computer on where they were installed. So we couldn't even find that back if we wanted,
Oh, wow.
unfortunately.
But that will probably work not with Linux then, right? Because it's probably a Mac
It
thing.
does. It works with Linux as well.
Super.
It works with Windows, Linux, and Mac. That's a big thing for everything we do. We're really
Yeah.
paying attention that it should work on everything.
Fantastic. Great.
Yeah,
I have
we're
so
still
many
working on
VMs.
yeah. Yeah, tons of virtual machines and physical computers that Steph is testing on.
Wow. I'm impressed, honestly. This is massive work.
Yeah, and maybe for if I mean I don't know if your audience includes people who might be interested in contributing to processing as like code contributors, but maybe we could also show how easy it is to build processing on your machine.
Of course. Of course.
If you want to contribute to processing today, you can go to the processing repo and you can clone it. And I would say opening with GitHub Desktop is, especially if you're a beginner, the easiest way to do it. And then automatically switched it for me. So this is what it will look like when you clone it. Then you can go to Show in Finder and open that folder in IntelliJ. So we're using IntelliJ IDEA Community Edition. That is basically the recommended editor to work on processing at the moment. Yeah, then we get okay. So one thing that you probably will need to select is go to project structure and then select the right Java SDK. That's something I'm working on actually on automating away as well, so we don't have to do that step anymore. And also, hopefully, we won't have people use the wrong one. And then there is a processing configuration, and then you hit run, and then it will start building processing from scratch, downloading all the assets. And then if we wait a while, it will show up. It's a big project.
So
Yeah.
in the process, did it grow or shrink while rebuilding it?
We didn't rebuild it,
Okay.
True.
but we did modernize part of the infrastructure.
So right now it just grew, both in file size and in code. But there's a lot of code that right now is duplicated because I wanted to make sure that we had migrated everything before I started deleting anything. But I looked at it, especially the build system before was around 6,000 lines of code, right? Just the code to build processing. And I've reduced it to about 1,000.
Wow, that's cool.
So I've a lot more functionality is now relying on just standard tooling rather than kind of the step-by-step process that was before. It made sense because the project grew over 21 years and just instead of replacing anything, steps just got added. And so to have a moment where you just go, okay, it's 2025 now, how would this be approached now? And then I did it from that perspective, basically. Yeah.
So yeah, this is not something that anyone who uses processing for their sketches will ever need to do. But if you want to help fix a bug, this will be kind of the process to get started doing that. So for people who have a little bit more experience with coding and want to get involved, we're also very happy to give some pointers, give some help. We'll share the link. I think in the show notes you can add the link to the Discord server as well,
Yeah, sure.
the processing community Discord server. And so yeah, if people have questions or they want to help develop processing or focus on some part or another of the software and give us a hand, that's the best place to go and come ask for pointers. Otherwise, of course, on GitHub as well, directly in the issues or open a new issue if people find a bug.
Superb. Nice. Great. Yeah, that looks like a nice future of processing. I'm really hyped. I mean, I said this quite a few times already today, but yeah, one more time. I love this. It's fantastic. Great. Super.
Yeah, I hope people are excited too. We've put a lot of love and work and sweat into into getting to that point. And yeah, there's a lot more to come. We have more plans. And yeah, as I said, in the end, it's all for the community. It's all for the people who use processing. We're really hoping that people are as excited as we are for the future of the software. And if people also other thing that we should mention is if you post work, if you make work with processing, please post it on social media. That helps incredibly. And I've started new accounts on Instagram, on Blue Sky, also on Facebook, and Mastodon, of course, for processing the software, because historically the processing software account became the Processing Foundation account. So there's not really an account for processing the software. So now there is. We created new ones, so people can please go and follow those, but also mention processing, tag processing, and the Processing Foundation, of course, but also the processing core or processing org, depending on the platform. I'll also share all the links when you post your work so that we can repost it. And it would be really, really cool if people can post also like kind of work in progress work where you see the editor, so that it kind of also shows how the sketch is made, because by default it doesn't really show, and people might not even know that processing exists. So yeah, like posting some process work and work in progress work is really great. It's also something that people like to see, because you always like to see the behind the scenes. So it's a good idea for your audience and for your engagement, but also it helps us advertise the software so more people find out about it, and the more people use processing and find out about processing, the more support we can potentially have for future developments as well. So obviously you can always donate to processing and to the Processing Foundation for development, but if you can't, or if you won't, you can also post content and share processing with people who might enjoy it. Is also a great way to support.
Yeah, building bridges, right, between people, users, creators, and the Processing Foundation.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, guys. That was really, really nice. I am inspired. I can't wait to get started again with coding new stuff, especially with the Visual Studio Code plugin. But that Vim thing would be also be very interesting. I will try to build something myself.
Build it.
I will try
the language. The language server, but if you have questions, please come on the Discord and ask, and sure. We'll be happy to support you.
Yes, awesome.
We're happy to give you also the ingredients that that you need.
Yeah, that's cool. I think I will build something minimal for myself, and because I am mainly too busy to do that full time, or anyway put too much time into this. But yeah, it's a great experiment, I think, and I just feel that many people will not really find this useful. Anyway, I just wanted to say thank you so much. I will end the recording now. And yeah, thank you guys. It was amazing.
Thanks for having us. It was great. It was a great time as always.
Absolutely. See ya.